with the Bohemian Grove and the Bilderberg Group.
Bilderbergers.
So the elites, as I think you've referred to them. So this gathering of the elites. Uh, can you can you just talk about them? What is this?
Well, first thing I have to point out is that Bohemian Grove is a place, not an organization.
Hmm.
It's where the Bohemian Club meets. It's that 2,700-acre old-growth redwood near, north of San Francisco. The Bohemian Club began, I think, way back in the 1870s. Its initial members were mostly journalists. Okay. In fact, supposedly the name itself comes from, it was a term for an itinerant journalist who moved from paper to paper, was called a Bohemian. And although I think there may be other reasons why that particular term was chosen as well, but I think the original five members, there were like three journalists, there was a merchant, and there was a vintner guy who owned a vineyard. California, how surprising. None of them terribly wealthy, but they formed an exclusive men's club. Was and still is. Nothing terribly unusual about that at the time. But it became fashionable. And as it became fashionable, more wealthy people wanted to become part of it. And the thing about getting rich guys to join your club is, what do rich guys have? Money. And of course, it's one of those rich guys that bought Bohemian Grove, where now you build your old boy summer camp, which is what it is. They got cabins with goofy names. They go there. They perform skits. They dress up in costumes.
Yeah.
True, some of those skits look like pagan human sacrifices, but it's just a skit. What's really going on there? So on the one hand, you can argue, look, it's a rich guy's club. They like to get out there. The whole motto of the place is "Weaving spiders come not here." So whenever we're going to talk about business, we just want to get out into the woods, put on some robes, burn a couple of effigies in front of the owl, have a good time. Probably get drunk a lot.
What's with the robes? Why do they do weird, creepy shit? Why do they put on a mask and the robe and do the plays and the owl with the and then sacrificing? I don't know,
Why do
whatever.
you have a giant owl? I mean,
Exactly.
why do you do that?
What is that in human nature? Because I don't think that rich people are different than not rich people. What is it about wealth and power that brings that out of people?
Well, part of it is the ritual aspect of it. And yeah, that clearly is a ritual. I mean, it's pretty simple. Rituals are just a series of actions performed in a precise sequence to produce an effect. That describes a lot of things. It describes plays, symphonies, every movie you've ever seen. A movie is a ritual. It is a series of actions carried out in a precise sequence to produce an effect, with an added soundtrack to cue you to what emotions you're supposed to be feeling.
It's a great idea. So the rich people should just go to a movie, or maybe just go to a Taylor Swift concert. Like, why do you have to put
Well,
why the owl thing?
part of it is to create this kind of sense, I suppose, of group solidarity. You're all going to appear, and also a way of sort of transcending yourself in a way. When you put on the robe, it's like putting on a uniform. You are in some way a different or more important person. It's a ritual. Okay, the key ritual at Bohemian Grove is a thing called the cremation of care. And cremation, and that's what it's supposed to be. We're going to put all of our, we're rich, important people. We have to make all of these critical decisions. Life is so hard. So we're going to go out here in the woods and we're going to kick back, and we're all going to gather around the lake, and then we're going to carry, it's wicker. It's not a real person. And how would you know? And then and this is the cremation of our care, but it's a ritual which is meant to produce a sense of solidarity and relief among those people who are there. The question comes down with the rituals is, how seriously do you take them? How important is this to the people who carry them out? And the interesting answer to that is that for some people, it's just boring. Okay, I mean, there are probably people standing around the owl who think this is ridiculous and can't wait for it to get over with. There are the people who are kind of excited about it, you get caught up into it. But other people can take it very seriously. It's all a matter of the intention that you have about what the ritual means. And I don't mean to suggest by that there's anything necessarily sinister about what's going on, but it is clearly a ritual carried out for some kind of group reinforcing purpose. And you're absolutely right. You don't have to do it that way. That's not an I mean, I've gone to summer camps and we never carried out mock sacrifices in front of an owl. All right. We did all those other things. We didn't even have any robes either. So it goes beyond merely a rich guy summer camp, although that's an aspect of it. But it also, I think, often obscures it, focusing on Bohemian Grove at the getaway of the club, ignores that the club is around all the time. That's what's at the center of this. It is the club and its members. So, despite all the talk about no weaving spiders coming around here, one of the other features of the summer meeting are things called lakeside talks. And this often people are invited to go there. And one of the people who was invited, I think around 1968, was Richard Nixon, who was making his political comeback. And he was invited to give a talk where very important people are listening. And Nixon, in his memoirs, realized what was going on. He was being auditioned as to whether or not he was going to be right. He recognized that that was really the beginning of his second presidential campaign. He was being vetted. So, one of the main theories, call it a conspiracy theory or not, about the Bohemian Club and the gatherings is that people of wealth and influence gather together. And whether or not it's part of the agenda or not, inevitably you're going to talk about things of interest. But to me, the mere fact that you invite people in, political leaders, to give lakeside talks means that there are weaving spiders which are going on. And it is a perfect private venue to vet people for political office.
I mean, yeah, where else are you going to do it if you're interested in vetting, if you're interested in powerful people selecting?
Well, see, here's the question. Are these guys actually picking who's going to be president? Is that the decision which is being made? Or are they just deciding what horses they're going to back?
Right.
I think the latter is the simpler version of it, but it doesn't mean it's the other way around. But these are the kinds of, I mean, Nixon was, there was the whole 1960 thing. So he's the new Nixon. Remember this, and this is where the new Nixon apparently made a good impression on the right people, because he did indeed get the Republican nomination, and he did indeed become president.
Well, there could also be a much more innocent explanation of really it's powerful people getting together and having conversations, and through that conversation influencing each other's view of the world,
Mhm.
and just having a legitimate discussion of policies,
Well,
foreign policy.
why wouldn't they? I mean,
Right.
why would you assume that people are not going to do that?
It's the owl thing with the robes. Like what? See,
Why the owl and why the robes?
which is why it becomes really compelling when guys like Alex Jones, uh, forgive me, but I have not watched his documentary. I probably should at some point about the Bohemian Grove, where he claims that there is uh, Satanist human sacrifice of, I think, children. Um, and I think that's quite a popular conspiracy theory. Or it has lost popularity. It kind of like transformed itself into the QAnon set of conspiracy theories. But I mean, can you speak to that conspiracy?
Let's put it this way: the general public, rich people are inherently suspicious.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put it that way. First of all, they've got all that money, and exactly how did one obtain it? And I do not, of necessity, adhere to the view that behind every great fortune there is a great crime, but there often are. There are ways in which it's acquired. But I think it's one of the things I think that can happen is particularly when people acquire a huge amount of money. And I won't name any names, but let's say there are people who perhaps in the tech sphere who, coming from no particular background of wealth, suddenly find themselves with $600 billion. Well, this is the question you would have to ask yourself. Why me? because you're one of the rare, tiny group of human beings who will ever have that kind of wealth in your hands. Even if you are a convinced atheist, I think at some point you have to begin to suspect that the cosmic muffin, providence, whatever it is, put this money in your hands to do what? Achieve great things. Just think of all the stuff. So you're going to start a foundation and you're going to start backing all the things that you like. This is, yeah, I think there's an element of ego that comes in with it as well. And again, it may not be so much what the rich person with a huge amount of money at their disposal and a lot of fuzzy ideas about what to do with it can be influenced by others. It's always that question as to who's actually manipulating these events. What's going on in that regard? And in some way, they can be a very useful sucker. Find somebody with a lot of money and get them to finance the things that you want them to do. The Bohemian Club is, I don't think, in and of itself inherently evil or sinister, but it means that there are lots of different people in it who have different agendas. It goes back to what I said about how somebody feels about the cremation of care ritual. This is either just a waste of time, it's just some sort of silly thing that we're doing, or it is something of great importance, perhaps even mystical or religious importance, because that's ostensibly what it's pretending to be.